Hey everybody, my name is Poppin' Fresh, and I just wanted to do a quick team builder kind of video before I play Minty tomorrow. Today is Saturday, February 13th, as you can see. Well, I guess you can't see because my face is over it. It's down there at the bottom of my screen. So I just wanted to go over my thought process and what I wanted to do with this team and what I thought it'd be up against, and kind of just document how I built this team and see it in retrospect after the game gets played tomorrow, how it worked. So, starting off, we have the Draft League website, and on here we have all the different mons we have, how to rank from higher tier to low tier. So, immediately looking at his team, I see that his speed tiers are definitely lower than mine. So that says to me it's probably going to be some kind of trick room mode. I mean, Metagross is at that kind of awkward speed where it can work in and outside of trick room. He has Umbreon, who's a great supporter, does well in trick room. Conkeldurr does good in trick room. Bronzong doesn't have much of offensive presence, but it works well in trick room. And Glaceon can too. A lot of his team's definitely on the slower side, and he definitely has ways to make sure it goes up. Rhoda, Metagross, Bronzong, I'll get Ally Switch, I believe. Butterfree gets Rage Powder. Serena gets the ability to stop Fake Out so the trick room goes off. All sorts of stuff to make sure that happens. And if it does go up, I'm kind of boned. I don't really have a good way to deal with trick room on my team. The only one of my mods that learns it is Mr. Rhyme. So if it does go up and I have to come in and reverse trick room, that's going to be a huge momentum loss and probably cost me the game. So if I don't stop it from coming up, it's kind of a lost cause. So looking at this, I saw my main plane of attack would need to start with having a way to make sure that trick room does not happen. Make sure it's not in the cards. So I looked at that, and one of the first things I realized was that his two... Wait, so we can go to the prep sheet now that I've showed the teams, because the sprites on this are teeny tiny. So his trick room setters are Mime and Bronzong. Between the two, obviously Mime is not usable compared to Bronzong. So Bronzong will be the one to set trick room if he does go down that route. Sorry, I'm sniffly. Got allergies. So from here, he has trick room, all sorts of other speed control, but I'm betting he probably will go the trick room route. So one of the things I was wanting to do was to see who's going to be setting trick room and how it can deal with that. So one of the ways that you can deal with Bronzong, there's two main ways. You can either taunt it and make sure it doesn't get it up, but that can be countered by the herb, or you can try to knock it out, which is relatively difficult because Bronzong's very bulky. So I thought about it. I decided I wanted to go start building this team with a support of Thundurus. It's with Prankster, it can do a lot of support shenanigans and make sure that no matter how fast you are, taunt will get there and it will hit and make sure that it stops. But that kind of gets shut down with if you have the mental herb. So I thought about it and realized that if there's a way where I could just knock out Bronzong in one hit, that'll make my life a whole lot easier. So I thought about it and realized that Bronzong is weak to a couple different of the hard hitters on my team. So I decided to go with a kind of weird pair. Definitely not what you'd expect to be tearing up tournaments and all that. So I guess let's go to Showdown now. I started my team, and I can't shuffle them around, but this is what I ended up going with. But I'll talk about why I made these choices later. So I started off with Absol and Blaziken. So Blaziken, it has Red Heat Wave, and I decided to go special instead of physical because my team as a whole, I guess it's pretty well balanced, but it's I feel like it's less common on Blaziken. Typically you think of Blaziken swords dancing, speed boosting, and apply with your teams, but I wanted to have a Blaziken that played a bigger or a more supportive role, I guess you could say. So I went with Heat Wave, Detect, Aura Sphere, and Will-O-Wisp. And the reason I went for Heat Wave instead of a more powerful single targeting move is because if he does have that Butterfree in the front with Rage Powder, I want to be able to get some damage off on both targets. I mean, Butterfree won't live a Heat Wave no matter what it's EV to do, I'd imagine. I hope. And if it does Rage Powder, my way of dealing with Bronzong is our good friend Safety Goggles Absol. So Absol is only good for one thing, and it's that stat right there that hits a sweet 200 if you fully invest in it. Max speed, max attack. It's gonna hit and it's gonna die. So I made sure it can hit as hard as possible so it actually gets that kill before it dies. So I have Heat Wave on Blaziken plus Safety Goggles on Absol to make sure I can ignore a redirection and still hit with a double power assurance, which is more than enough to KO Bronzong, even if he has, I think I calculated so that even if he had the heat proof ability and the dark resist berry, I think it still KOs. But if he does, and that's if it's max HP, max defense, and max SPDF, which is impossible. But if it lives this hit, I'll either prove myself to be very bad at math, or prove that Minty's cheating. So either way, well, the truth will come out. So starting with those two, that's kind of my go-to way to stop Trigger from being set up. So when I first built this team, I had a Shuka Berry on Blaziken, and that was so that it could live a non-+2 Max Quake from Metagross. But the more I thought about that, since I'll be using Heat Wave, so say he starts like Bronzong and Metagross. If he starts with that, if I do Heat Wave, it'll proc the weakness policy, and then he'll die on it anyway. So I set up Air Balloon so that it's not going to get hit with Max Quake or Stomping Tantrum, and mainly also to discourage him from using it in the first place, because the second part of my strategy relies on weakness policy Latios to kind of go off, and if he has boosts to his special defense, that's going to really hinder my plan there. So moving on to that, we have Latios with Energy Ball, Mystical Fire, Stored Power, and Safeguard. So we'll start bottom to the top. Safeguard, in case if it comes in earlier before it wants to Dynamax, it can set up the Safeguard to prevent any kind of sleep pattern shenanigans or Butterfree or anything like that, and it gives it an option to max guard and Dynamax if it needs to. Stored Power, because it has weakness policy, and it gets actually really strong when it's maxed. It goes up to 130, even though it's only a base 20 power move. Mystical Fire for Metagross, and Energy Ball in case Milotic comes in. I talked with Raph about it, and he kind of came to the conclusion that if he brings a bulky Milotic with an Assault Vest or something like that, I don't really have an option or an answer to that. So Energy Ball gives me an option to hit that super effectively and deal some good damage to it. But even at +2 with a Max Flare off of Mystical Fire, this isn't enough to one-hit KO a max HP, no SPDF Metagross. So that's where our friend Sceptile comes in. He has Endure, Fling, Endeavor, Leaf Storm with Pataya Berry. So this set gives him a couple weird things he can do. And he also has a very weird EV spread. He's EV'd to be the fastest mod on my team, outspeeding Latios by 1 point. He has Fling to fling the Pataya Berry onto Latios, give it a +1 special attack boost, Van proc weakness policy, so it'll be a +3, which is enough to knock out Metagross in one hit if it hits it with a Max Flare. Then my other two moves are three moves are Endure, Endeavor, and Leaf Storm. So if things kind of go sideways and I don't get to do that setup with Latios, I can do either Endure plus a full-powered Leaf Storm after the Pataya Berry procs on Sceptile itself, or Endure plus Endeavor to do a ton of damage. The special attack EVs are in there to make sure that it can 2-hit KO. I think it was Max Attack, Max SPDF, Milotic. If it doesn't Dynamax, it doesn't have an Assault Vex 100% of the time, even after the special attack drop. And if it does proc the Pataya Berry, it'll be a 1-hit KO. Endeavor is just to be annoying. If I do go down to Endure, I will have my Pataya. If I get down to 1 hit point with this thing, my Pataya Berry is going to be gone either way. Either I ate it or he threw it at Latios. So he'll be the fastest thing by far, and then I can hit it with an Endeavor. So even if he does some weird kind of scarf shit, I'll be able to take care of that. Thunderous, as I said earlier, I wanted to be kind of supportive, so I gave it Taunt in case my Absol Blaziken lead goes horribly sideways in the first game. So he has Taunt, Eerie Impulse, Protect, Wild Charge, with the Yachi Berry to survive a not +2 max ice from Metagross. So I originally had Thunderous with Prankster, like I said earlier, but the more I thought about it, he already outspeeds everything on his team. And the only case in which Prankster would really be necessary is if he gets Trick Room, but if that happens, I've already lost. And one other thing that I was thinking of is that if he does bring Umbreon, which has a really good support moveset, and if it gets Foul Play on my Latios after it gets +2 attack, that'll hurt a lot. But more importantly, it has Yawn and other annoying status moves. So if I did have Prankster, I wouldn't be able to taunt the Umbreon. But since I don't have that, it won't get blocked by Umbreon by virtue of Umbreon being a Dark type. So I can taunt it regardless, and I'm still faster than the rest of the team. And I went with Defy instead and went physical because it'll be able to do more damage to Milotic and some of the other specially offensive guys on his team. And it also just discourages him from doing any kind of snarl shenanigans. If he does get in Umbreon, he won't want to Snarl and try to lower Lottie's special attack because Thundurus will come out and just get us free Swords Dance, which will be pretty cool. And last but not least is Mr. Rhyme. Fake out Trick Room, Ice Shard, Foul Play. This is kind of my last resort guy. If he comes out, then it's not looking good. Fake out, because Fake out's awesome. Trick Room, in case I really need to come in and try to flip the Trick Room again, which I really hope doesn't happen. Ice Shard and Foul Play. Foul Play is good because it does a ton of damage to Metagross and any of his other physical attackers, which he doesn't have that many of, but Mr. Rhyme's definitely not here to do damage, he's here for support. And he also has Ice Shard, which was originally Ally Switch, but I swapped it out for Ice Shard so it could, if I didn't send in Sceptile for that game, if it looked like an unfavorable matchup, I had another option to proc Latios' weakness policy before it attacks. And, yeah, I think that is about it. These guys should have nicknames when we play tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to see how it goes. If he doesn't bring Trick Room, all of this is for naught, and I just have a randomized team to go up against him. So, just looking at things, I definitely think this was a difficult week to prep for. I think he has a lot of strong pieces, and unfortunately, I'll be the only one to play against the team in this state because he did trade out Rotom, and I think Milotic for Suicune and Persian. So who knows? We'll see if this team works out well, and maybe he'll swap back to them. Who knows? It's an open question. But yeah, that's it for me. I will post this after we play. I don't want to give away my strats. Yeah, I will see you guys in the battle review. Take it easy.